Hey, it's Greg here, the Vinyl Arms. Thanks for tuning in. It's that sort of post-Christmas haze. Everybody's feeling a little bit dysfunctional. David Atkinson, bless him, has laid down the gauntlet of the 2026 sort of vinyl thread. So going to give that a go today. Don't know how it's going to go. I'm feeling a little bit like, post-Christmas, but we're going to give it a good effort anyway. Hope you've all had a good Christmas. We have in this house. It's been lovely catching up with friends and family and what have you. Highlight for me was escaping yesterday on Boxing Day in the afternoon with a couple of mates. We went through to watch York. I'm a York fan for my sins. We're having a good season though, playing good football. But we're playing a bit of a bogey team yesterday, Boston United. And it was a really good game, really entertaining game. God knows how we worked 3-0 up in the first 5 minutes, but just luck wasn't on our side. We were losing 2-1 at 90 minutes, and the ref holds up the board of 7 minutes extra time, and we're like, come on. And Joshy Stones, our big forward, slotted home a tremendous goal 6 minutes into stoppage time. So, that certainly put a smile on my face. Anyway, enough of my rant. On to music. I'm going to take my glasses off here. I'm going to get rid of this. I'm rinsing the Christmas thing there, so we'll get rid of the antlers and let's focus now. So a lot of questions here. So here we go. I've got a big pile of records here. You might be able to see them hanging off. Best purchase of 2026. So I'm going to pick an old one and then a new release from 2026. So the old one is this, Zuma, Neil Young. It's just a beautiful record. Now, I've had other copies of this before. The last copy I had been attacked by somebody's kid, and there's a lyric insert in here, and there was just like loads of scribbles all over it. And the vinyl was VG at best. You know, it was clicking and popping all over the place. And when you listen into a track like Cortez the Killer, you want to enjoy it. And I found this nice original. And, when you get these white sleeves, it's really hard to find them in any decent condition. And this one is, and it comes with the inner sleeve and it comes with a lyric inner. But most importantly, it plays absolutely perfect. It's a lovely sounding record. Best pressing of this I've owned. This is my forever copy now. And it's just an absolutely wonderful album if you've not heard it. New release. I'm going to be talking about this guy a few times, I think, today. But this record store day release, Ready, Set, Go, and it's Bowie around the heathen age and the reality age of his career, and it's a live performance on double vinyl, and again it sounds absolutely brilliant. So that was a record store day release from this year. Best live event, well, it has to be. Been to some cracking live shows this year, but the highlight for me has to be when I took my middle kid, he's 14, to his first gig, and it was a band called Holy Holy. He's a big David Bowie fan, takes after his dad, and Holy Holy is a band with Woody Woodmansey and Tony Visconti and playing Bowie classics, and we got this set list signed by Woody and Visconti from the show in Leeds, and that was his first gig, Luke's first gig, and it was just brilliant sharing something like that with him at the age of 14, and sort of seeing music come to stage, if you will, for his first time, and he absolutely loved it. So that was a great night. Loved that. Where do you see your collection in 10 years' time? So we moved about sort of 12, 13 months ago now into the house we're in here. And before that, we've got 3 kids. It's a busy house and we're permanently skint. And so we lived we were all sort of shoehorned into this house before. It was too small really for us. I didn't really have a lot of space. So kind of my collection was always kind of, one in, one out kind of routine, just for space, really, more than anything. We're here now. We've got more space, and I've got some nice sort of IKEA Bondi type cupboards behind me here, and each one probably holds, I don't know, kind of maybe sort of 400 albums in each, and there's three of them, and there's plenty of space to go at still. So I see my collection, my LP collection, growing quite nicely, and sevens as well. I'm really into 7-inch singles. I think what I'd like to do is sort of focus, in 2026 and the next 10 years is focus on certain artists rather than just sort of scattergun. There's certain artists like Bowie, like Neil Young, certain labels like Sub Pop Records that I really want to kind of nail down and really kind of become quite archival really with those things. This is ironic given that I was just talking about new house first song. Well, we did move house sort of a year ago, as I say, and I don't know if it was the first song, but it was one of the first songs that I put on very loud, and it's got a lot of, I just love it. It's such a positive song. This guy's music's really positive. And the reference of three little birds always makes me think of my three kids. And obviously it's Bob Marley, Three Little Birds, beautiful song, positive song. And there's a great dub version on the B-side as well. So, absolutely banging 12-inch single, that one. Favourite male and female artist? Well, I've already shown my favourite male artist in David Bowie. I've grown up with him since listening to music as a teenager. I'm 48 now, so many years of listening to his music. In life, you sort of your ups and your downs and your ups and your downs, and he's always been there, ever present throughout all of those things. So, even though he's not with us, I still feel like I owe him an immense thank you and gratitude for just kind of being the soundtrack to a lot of those periods of life. Love his music. And in terms of female, there's lots. I mean, I did think about Kate Bush, again, similarly to Bowie, grown up with her music. I love her songs. I love how she sort of pushes boundaries. She's got a beautiful voice. It's quite experimental. I did think about Björk. I think she's just such a talent as well. Initially, I couldn't get into her, on her first couple of albums, but as her sound developed and as my ears developed, and I just think she's absolutely amazing. But neither of those, I've gone for this lady. Now, this is PJ Harvey. This is her last album from 23, I think it was. There she is on the back now. She has got everything. She's got style. She's got the voice. She can play different instruments. Her lyrical content is second to none. She tells great stories in her songs. She's provocative. I think she's just the whole package. And it's a lovely gatefold sleeve. And in here, actually, I'll just show this. Me and a friend, Al, went to see her live in 23. There's the ticket stub from the Albert Hall in Manchester. That's the third time I've seen PJ Harvey live. And every time she hits the back of the net, she's just brilliant. So, yeah, I think PJ Harvey, for me, best female artist. 3 dance records. So we're having a bit of a party now. I do like beats. I do like dance music. Love these guys. Orb, Little Fluffy Clouds. I mean, that just reminds me of being a lot younger. Reminds me of sunny summer days, and it's just a great song. And this particular version on side A is Dance Mark 2, Dance Mix 2, and it's just fabulous. Really well worth checking out. And the next two are kind of linked. I saw these guys when they were promoting this album, Exit Planet Dust, in the early 90s it would have been, and they were at the Empress Ballroom in Blackpool. We went over there, and they were brilliant. They were absolutely fabulous, and I, bought their records on the back of seeing them live because they were supporting another artist. So they opened, and they were absolutely class. And the headlining artist was Prodigy. Now, this record is, you just can't sit still listening to this record. It's just amazing. You know, if I was going to pick one track though, if we're out for a party or something and I put something banging on, I'm probably going to go something like Outer Space or Everybody in the Place. You know, two great big tunes. Love them. So that's Prodigy. Stinker. So an album that you love with a track on that's a real stinker. So again, we're back to sort of Neil Young. I think Harvest Moon is just a gorgeous album. Well, most of it is. I think 99% of it is. But there's an odd track on side 2, and I'm sure to Neil it means a lot, and it's called Old King. And I think it's about his dog or something at the time who recently passed away. I might be totally wrong on that. I might be missing the mark, but that's what I think it's about. But it's just like this little sort of country, sort of jitty kind of tune, and it just does absolutely nothing for me. I just don't think it's very good. I mean, I love Neil Young, but I don't think that song's very good. And but every other track on this album, you know, looking at songs like Natural Beauty, One of These Days, Harvest Moon, from Hank to Hendrix, just every song is just so well written and so beautifully performed and recorded. And then there's just this oddity called Old King on there that just does not sit in the mix. It just spoils that album a little bit for me. But other than that, a beautiful album. Next one's a funny one. It's a good one, this. Pick an album from the last 6 decades, starting in the 60s. So Beatles, Sgt. Pepper. A really quick story about this. I didn't like the Beatles for many, many years, and I've got a friend, Al, who kept saying, you know, check the Beatles out. In fact, he lent me this album. I might have told this story before. Sorry if I'm repeating myself, but he loaned me this album, and it literally sat on my shelf. And he you know, we speak regularly, and he was like, have you listened to it yet? I'm like, no, I can't be asked. Have you listened to it yet? And that's not my thing, Al. Have you listened to it yet? No, just leave me alone, Al. Anyway, about 12 months later, have you listened to it? And I was like, Al, I have. And fuck me, it's bloody brilliant. And you were right, and I was wrong. And how have I not had the Beatles in my life before now? So this was really the album that, you know, really late to the party, maybe 4 or 5 years ago now, this was that got me into the Beatles. And since then, I've picked up albums like Revolver and Abbey Road and many others. And it's thanks to this, really. So, you know, thanks, Al. That's the 60s. Again, another one that I owe to Al from the 70s is this monster, this Black Sabbath album, which is, you know, very pertinent for this year, obviously, with the passing of Ozzy. God bless him. But what a record this is. I mean, you know, it really is sort of the birth of sort of sludgy sort of rock. You know, it's really heavy hitting, heavy metal, you know, sort of very sort of dark and grungy as well, almost. You know, it's got it all going on. It's just a great album. 80s, oh man, Big Black and Atomizer and Steve Albini and co were on absolute form here. I mean, you got to be in the right sort of mind to listen to this. It's very abrasive, very raw, but it's just brilliant. I mean, tracks like Kerosene and Big Money, you know, just go check those out. If you like sort of punk or, you know, sort of hardcore or just, you know, anything sort of guitar and rock based, you know, you check that out. It's really, really good fun listen. 90s. This was a band that I could, if in my eyes, could do no wrong in the 90s, and it's Soundgarden's album. Now, this isn't Soundgarden's first album; it's their third, but it's the album that I was introduced to Soundgarden back in '91, and this is my copy from then. I love this sticker here. It says the album of the year, the most brilliant band to hit the planet since Slayer unleashed Hell Awaits, and yeah, probably can't argue with that. You know, brilliant record, every track gold. If you're not familiar with Soundgarden, this is the one to start with, I would say. Into the noughties, well, you know, I can't do a video like this without mentioning this band, and this was shoehorned into 2010, so we're just there. And was it 2010? No, sorry, 2000, and it's Iron Maiden, Brave New World. And this is when the Maiden boys were back on form. You know, this is such a big album, and they're sort of starting to get a little bit progressive now. You know, they're sort of going into double album territory. As you know, I think that, it's really good for people like Dave Merry and Adrian Smith to sort of really develop the guitar work on longer songs, and it really comes across on here. They're really well written songs, great record, Iron Maiden. And the 2010s, this was 2013, a band I've liked all the way through. This is their last album that they released. I think, yeah, it is. I'd love them to release another one, but unfortunately, I don't think they ever will, because that's such a long time ago now. But Boards of Canada and Tomorrow's Harvest, and it's just beautifully well-written, atmospheric electronic music. And I don't know, I don't know how familiar you are with Boards of Canada, but they're on Warp Records, sort of lumped under that IDM sort of banner, but so much more to give, very atmospheric, and it takes you somewhere else. Really well worth listening to if you're not familiar with them. I guarantee you'll like them. Who would you most like to spend time with? Okay, well, I gave this some thought, and I'm just going to go back here to a concert here from the Afghan Whigs. Afghan Whigs are sort of an American sort of 90s, started in the 90s, still making music now, started in the early 90s, maybe even late 80s actually. They were on Sub Pop Records. They weren't really grunge though, they were sort of like soulful, alternative rock. Greg Dooley, the singer, he's very influenced by soul music. In fact, to the point where they do end up covering a lot of songs. They've covered things like Band of Gold in the past, and lots of other great songs. But I saw them live at this gig. It was 2017 actually now, so quite some time ago, at a venue that's not there anymore called The Church on Woodhouse Lane in Leeds. Well, if it's there, it's not a concert venue anymore. And they were absolutely brilliant. But what really struck me, this is one of their albums, by the way, Congregation, great album, well worth checking out. A really good place to start, I would say, for Afghan Whigs. But just going back to this concert, so you know what it's like in today's day and age. Everybody is looking for that photo or that footage so they can stream it onto some social media or something, And I get it, that's where we're at as a society. But Greg Dooley, the frontman of Afghan Whigs, at the start of the gig, he comes onto stage. He's got such presence. He really has. And he just said to everybody, he says, look, put your phones away. I don't want to see a phone in the house. I want you to live in the moment. I want you to just sing with us and party with us. Put those phones away. And he said it in a way that, you knew he wasn't messing about. So everybody put the phones away. And a guy who can command an audience of what must have been about 1,000 people like that gets my respect. And I'd love to sit down with him. I know the band met in jail, and I think he's got a bit of a dark past. It's sort of, and I know he's had problems with addiction and things in the past. But his music that he writes is so beautiful, and his lyrics are so intelligent. And I'd just love to sort of meet up with him over a beer and just kind of find out, what's going on in there, and try and understand him a bit better, because I think he's an absolute legend, living legend. So, yeah. Afghan Whigs, Greg Dooley, the person I'd most like to spend some time with. A song that brings a tear to the eye. Oh, God. I mean, you could name a lot of songs on this album, couldn't you? It's one of the Johnny Cash American Recordings albums. But on this one, this is American Recordings 4, The Man Comes Around, which, by the way, is a great track. But the track after that is the Trent Reznor 9 Inch Nails song Hurt, and Johnny Cash puts his own stamp on it. And I honestly can't listen to that song without my eyes kind of weeping up. It's so powerfully done, and I think, when somebody, because it was great when 9 Inch Nails did it, but I don't know, kind of Johnny Cash just untaps a whole level of emotion, that you didn't really know was there, and takes the song somewhere else, and I mean that in the utmost respect. It's beautifully done. Where are we up to now? Tear to the eye. One artist that you just don't get. Well, I don't. Probably from what I was mentioning earlier, in my previous house, didn't really have a lot of space. So if I wasn't getting on with something, I wouldn't keep it. But I've had so many people over the years recommend Radiohead to me, and I just can't get on with them. And I know I'm in the minority there, and I know I'm probably in the wrong, but I just can't get on with Radiohead. I can't get on with Tom York's voice. I'm sure he's got a very good voice. I don't want this to be negative in any way, shape, or form, but it just doesn't work for me. So that's that one. One record you would keep? Well, it would have to be this. Again, for emotional reasons. My dad, bless him, he passed away when he was 64. Far too young. But this is an album that I remember as a kid. He'd play this all the time in the 80s, Dire Straits and Brothers in Arms. And I think every track on here is just golden. I mean, they're really well-written songs, but from a personal level, there's so much memory in this album for me as well. So yeah, if the house was burning down, I had to grab one record, it'd be this one, I think, just because of the attachment there. Vinyl community highlight. Well, I think doing my first video, having the courage, my little boy Al helped me do that, Alex, and he got me on my way, with using YouTube and doing these videos and things, and sort of recording that first video with him was really nice. Him helping me get my confidence up in doing this. He's only 11, and I really appreciate that, Alex. Thank you. And I think I think I'm 20 videos in, something like that, and I'm starting to get comments and things, and I think I've got 73 subs now, which is great to think that people want to watch this kind of stuff, and I really appreciate that. So yeah, all of that is kind of my highlight in these early stages. So, again, thank you for watching. It really does mean a lot. Does jazz matter? I know nothing about jazz music. I'm not even going to pretend I do. But I do love this album. And if ever I was going to, as a novice to jazz, point somebody in the direction of jazz, I'd point them in the album of this. Ole Coltrane, and the first song on here, called Ole, is 18 minutes long, and I just think that the bass and the piano and the sax all playing around, it's very playful, and it's got a lot of time to go sort of on this exploration, with it being 18 minutes long. I think it's a lovely piece of music. I really do. I keep sort of saying to myself, I should really kind of explore jazz a bit more. I don't really know where to go with it, and I kind of don't want to make mistakes and get put off it, so I kind of sort of stick more to sort of guitar-based music, I guess, really. But this one is really good fun. Death Row, Last Request. I mean, this took some thinking about, and I think it's going to be something that kind of makes you not give a fuck, and you're on your way out, you want to go out with a bit of a smile. And I think this soundtrack has probably got loads of those songs on. But for me, I'd go for the brilliant song written by Jerry Rafferty, Stuck in the Middle with You. I think it's got such a great vibe to it, and as they're administering that lethal injection, I think at least I'd probably have a bit of a smile on my face and a bit of a swagger. So yeah, I think that's it, and it's a great film as well. If you've never seen Reservoir Dogs, you really should watch it. Sell your favourite artist to a new listener. So we're back to David Bowie now. And what I love about David Bowie is his diversity of music and the way that, well, they called him the chameleon. He was always reinventing himself. And I've just picked three random albums out here. I think, you've got the ever classic Hunky Dory. It's such a gorgeous album, such a wonderfully sounding album. And this is obviously the early part of his career. And then you kind of fast forward from that sort of like largely sort of acoustic rocky type vibe. And then you find yourself in Bowie sort of late 70s. And then you find this Low album. And this is much more instrumental. And he's really sort of experimenting with synthesizers, and he's working a lot with sort of experimental people like Brian Eno and the like, and this is a great record, a really, really intriguing listen. And you put it on and you just transfix somewhere for 40 minutes, and then you're like, blooming heck, because has it finished already? It just kind of, it's got that spell on you as Low. And then sort of in the 90s, late 90s, I think this probably was, you've got Outside, and he starts to get very sort of experimental. He starts working with people like Trent Reznor around this sort of point in time, and really messing around with sort of beats and sort of effects on guitars, and sort of really pushing boundaries. And this album and the other album we did, Earthling, which was around this time as well, where he's doing drum and bass and stuff, and that's what I would say to somebody who was looking for a new artist to get into. I'd say try David Bowie, because it's not like you're getting the same album time after time after time. He's a great guy to collect because it's just so diverse, and whatever you're in the mood to listen for, there's probably going to one of his albums that will tick that box. So yeah, that's how I would promote David Bowie. Favorite music film? I remember watching the Queen biopic called Bohemian Rhapsody, which I thought was a great story of Queen, Freddie Mercury, the early days of the band forming, and I enjoyed that film so much. Great film. And 2026 vinyl community meetup. So, well, I've not met any of my fellow vinyl community friends yet, but I have recently joined the vinyl community fantasy football league, which has been really fun. Getting involved with that. I'm doing shit. I think I'm second from bottom, so things aren't going very well. Bit of a relegation battle going on, broad shoulders, keeping everybody above. But yeah, I'm really enjoying that. And sort of on that football theme, it'd be great for everybody to catch up who's into the football. There's a lot of people in the VC that love their football and have a team. And maybe at some point in the future we could get some sort of game lined up and have like a vinyl community match, and we can get a couple of teams put together and have a kick around. I think it might be more of a walking football. None of us are as young as we used to be, and we might break into a canter every now and then, but it ain't got to be much more than that in terms of running. But what a laugh that would be, and then go for a pint afterwards. You never know. At some point in the future, maybe we can make that happen. But again, thanks for what. If you got this far, bloody hell, you deserve a medal. 28 minutes in, so I'm going to wrap it up. But look after yourselves. Best wishes for 2026, and thanks for watching. Bye bye.